Alright, Chapter 4, Tanker Farm Operations, Section 1, Introduction, General. Tanker Farm Operation procedure usually responsible of the supervisors of these operations include gauging, sampling, filing of the empty of the and filing and emptying tanks, circulation with the transfer of store with the bulk product with the drawing off the water. In order to perform the operation effectively, it is necessary for the supervisor to understand the plan of operation, the need for the proper care of the various tank, etc., including the vent valve, the gauges, hatch of the tanking, outlet valve, the excess opening of the heater pump, the filter of the operation, filter separated with the manifolds also be understood. Normal petroleum operation military activities consist of the receipt of the storage issue for the clean liquid petroleum product with the volume of the type of the products, the government with the mission and installation, existing facilities. Among these specialized operations include the receipt of the store of the issue of the product with the unloading and loading, tanker barges, tank cars, tank trucks, pipeline transfer, pipeline pumping from and into tanks of the gauging, sampling, maintaining records, inventories, operation, hydrant fuel dispensing systems, operation bulk lube systems, as well as the drum reconditioning, filing with the packaged product system. Section 2, Storage Tanks. General. The purpose of the following with the define with the illustrate of the various types of the tanks used for the military serve for the storage tanks. 4.3 types. Steel tank. Steel tanks are commonly used for the fuel store of nearly every kind of the petroleum products. Steel tank with a small size with a 500 barrel capacity that may be horizontal, vertical, but sizes greater than 500 barrel capacities, in most cases vertical. They may be installed either by below ground or may be decoded with the uncoated well. The tanks are permanent insulation petroleum product normally stored with the well as storage tank, which may be horizontal, vertically installed with either with above or the below, but on ground with the tank properly with a constructed, tested, and maintained with remain and free of vapor to liquid at least a long period of time. Bolted tanks. Bolted tanks military serve the range inside from 100 to 10,000 barrels of capacity with a single synthetic rubber gasket supplemented with a special sealing compound with a sealing of the space around the bolt with a bolt sealing compound may be applied with the bolted tanks, may be used with a temporary with a emergency fuel oil service, although they are considered with the necessary expended with some of the better and is available bolted tanks because of the fund limitations are being used in many military installations as semi-permanent storage of all the types of fuel. But these tanks may be procured through the normal military channels approved with interior coatings. Horizontal tanks. Horizontal tanks are cylindrical in shape and placed within support of the above ground, thereby installed with the underground. May be installed underground, relatively small, with normally used with local storage, the issue with the fuel and vehicle aircraft with storage and issuing lubricating oils. Your cone roof. The tanks. Cone roof tanks is the most commonly the primary course with the low cost construction compared with the other design type of the tank with the subject of the breathing and final losses of the roof of the not properly maintained and the gas tight condition windage losses may also be resolved with the roof of the cone toward the center of the tank of the coefficient with the pitch of the provided adequate drain with the wind end, usually 3/4 of an inch pitch to the foul. The cone roof, the tanks may be used with the storage period. Practically all grades of liquid petroleum product with internal pan floaters with the cone roof tank have been adopted by the military for the type of the tanks offered with the conservation, safe handling advantage to the standard floating roof tank, but without the disadvantages associated with the introduction of rain, snow, and sleet. And in the open roof tank, figure 1 is a cutaway drawing with an internal pan floater tank. Floating roof tank. The standardization floating roof tanks are designed to permit the roof to float on the surface of the liquid, rising and falling with a change of the product with the level of the no vapor space with the consequently with the proper design of the deck is effective with the closure of the vapor seal with around the edge of the floating roof. Breathing and filing losses are periodically eliminated with the fire hazard minimized with the little vapor remaining with the present above the product level in the tank. With the closure around the edge of the floating roof pan consists of a continuous gas tight, weatherproof synthetic rubber coated asbestos fabric attached with the ceiling of the ring slides along the face of the tank shell as of the roof that moves up and down with the ceiling of the ring that is maintained with a close contact with the side of the tank shell by means of counterweighted hangers of similar devices which exert constant pressure outward against the tank shell. And then it shows figure 1, show the tank steel liquid storage fixed cone roof and internal floating. You have your manhole, you have a guide pole with Weathermaster steel floating roof, manhole, fixed roof support, structural pipe column, sleeve and seal, vents and gauge hatch and vent. Alright, there are two general types of the floating roof tanks of the pan type of the cone roof, the cover the platoon type, and the double deck type of the floating roofs are the best adapted the validated product with the inventory turnover the rapid. Open tank top floating roof tanks are not well adapted to the usually extreme cold climate because of the operating difficulties caused by acclimation, snow, and ice. Concrete tanks. Majority of underground concrete tanks are military installation, are vertical with a circular with the cylinders having the walls pre-stressed concrete steel tension member of the place around the shell tanks of an interior of the ring with a continuous spiral with the tension members are stressed the prescribed percentage of the yield point of the metal with the concrete is played with the compression remain with the compression of the for all the valves, the liquid heat of which the tank will contain with the exterior of the tank shell is then protected with the second pour of concrete with the entire external surface of the shell is gunned. The concrete tanks are used with the storage of the fuel heavier than diesel fuel, and the interior surface is coated with the sodium and the silicated solution as do fill with the intersects of the concrete with the initial filing. When the concrete tank will be used for the storage of the diesel lighter types of fuel, the interior surface will normally provide with the coating of the system. Temperature of the contents more important, but the rate of change of the content of the concrete tank must be not limited to prevent excessive difference for the temperature between inside concrete wall surfaces with the outside steel rod hands. It is unsafe to have the concrete anytime more than 75 degrees or warmer than the steel rods and the uppermost limited the more of the desirable, therefore the flow of oil from the cold empty concrete tank should be started slowly when the oil temperature is more than 65 degrees Fahrenheit warmer than the tank temperature. If underground tank is heated slowly with the steel, the concrete temperature will not differ greatly because of the insulating effect of the earthen filling surrounding the tank. The rate of the heating of the storage should be limited to 4 degrees per hour. The oil temperature should not be raised above the temperature of the 155 degrees. The limit is more than sufficient for all normal depot operations, except for the reclamation process of which the steel tank should be used rather than the concrete. Oil temperature above ground concrete tanks should not exceed the temperature by more than 85 degrees Fahrenheit. With the containing of the pump of the heaters may be located alongside with a underground tank, ladders, and other means of access for the provide with the operator. Safety rules require offset to prevent long fail, but the often used with the ladders should be replaced by the stairs, whereas the feasible deep access pits are not considered for the safety due to the gas adequate force to ventilation isn't necessary to all of the pits. All such pits, especially when the adjacent with the gasoline jet fuel tanks, chain with the Navy's special and diesel fuel gasoline jet engine is not recommended, but in case of emergency, Navy special or diesel fuel when the tanks have been chained with the gasoline jet fuel service. Vertical well type of the tank should be blanked off on the outside of the pit and demanded. Unless the pit is abandoned, fill it in may become a hazard space of the accumulation of explosive vapors. Or your collapsible tanks. Collapsible rubber tanks can be rapidly installed with emergency storage application for the size of the tanks. So employed with the lube with the bottle tanks range of the size of 10,000 to 200,000 gallons in capacity. Permits for the storage expected to exceed with 1 year, with the tanks should be replaced with a steel tank. Field with the conditions may dictate with the use of a 500-gallon collapsible drum of the temporary storage. Miscellaneous tanks. Various other type of the tanks will be found in full storage installation, including water tank with a buried surface station for the drum, the filling with the storage tank, the drum filling plant storage tanks, cooler tanks, and also reclamation plants, burning of the fuel system tanks, etc. Type of the tanks used for the purpose of it depends upon the operation performed, but the tanks available for the use. Auxiliary tanks. Small auxiliary tanks are frequently used in the issue for the small quantity of the product with the such as loading racks, small craft piers, etc. More accurate gauging of the small deliveries is possible when such tanks are used. Similar large tanks suitable for the particular needs are also frequent used for defueling ship to provide with the segregated storage of the product with the test of the can be determined with the further with the use of the disposal, with the use of the auxiliary tank, increase with the flexibility of the tank farm. Ballast tank. The type of the tanks of the provide with the receiving the ballast may be also be open roofed and sealed with the concrete tanks, even if the open blanked earth bond type of the container for the provide not only with the receiving the ballast for the ship, they also use for strong ballast to be pumped back into the ship when necessary, but they're frequently used in conjunction with the oil reclamation plants. Surge tanks. Surge tanks are the showing of the receiver of the tank whenever the rate of flow of the not consistent with constant when the pumping must be done over the long distance. For example, over the tanker discharging from the tank of the farm several miles of the distance would be pumped into such a surge tank with the located near the pier. Shore boosters pumps and when in tanks lakes suction over the tank and pumping the product with the tanker farm with the use of the surge tank ensure the booster pump of the constant supply of the oil always in surges rate of the tanker discharge. Alright, 4.4, tank accessories. Vents. Open vents may be used to provide venting of the tanks of the fuel oil with a flash point with 100 degrees Fahrenheit or above the store, but there is no reason for any of the more complex than the open vent pipe protected with the hood of the core screen with the keep out the rain with the bird tank with the insects with any of the other ground tank with the sign with the boiler with the burner fuel with the diesel fuel. For these products, it does give off the flammable vapor that not accessibly effective with the contact of the air. Any fuel oil, however, the will change with the characteristics of evaporate exposed with the long period of time in the wind and sunlight in any of the open tank without a roof. The opening venting is also suitable for the above ground tank. The sign of the non-viable storage tanks is other than certain conditions. Breather valves must be justified with ladder service. See Figure 2. Breather valves are installed with above the ground kerosene, ground gasoline, jet fuel storage. This Figure 2 shows pressure vacuum test vents, A, B, C, and D. Valve discharge wave with the relief of the 1 over the pound with arrangement of the available with the higher 4x4 cement screen, studs with the steering with the 1.5 of the companion with the drilling. Flammable sniffer optional and mesh screen cross section above shows the standardization stem guide valve construction partial section right shows and gauge guide this type valve. The tanks that will also be found with a larger underground tank with a commonly admitted with the underground tank with is less than 2,500 gallons capacity with the free vents with a small tank with a shell with the carrier with a safe with the elevation above the ground with a breather valve with the underground tank with a further formerly clothed with the less retard the entrance of the moisture of the tank. When the tank is idle, the breather valves should not be used with the burner fuel oil tanks. The emergency vents are provided to take care of the extra flow of the vapor above the above ground tank. It should be exposed with the fire. These vents may be make the 4 or additional large vents of the breather valve of the API bulletin RF 2000 guide the tank venting. Flame arrestor. The flame arrestor is installed with some of the storage tank of the flame arrestor must be carefully maintained during the freezing mode of the step of the tank and prevent screens from clogging due to the frost. With some locality, the reliable to remove the flame arrestor screen with the other equivalent during extreme cold continued cold weather. Your tank outlets. Some tanks have been equipped with the swinging line outlets which for the outlet with the pipe that may be raised lowered by the means of the floating device attached to the free end of the line was manually operated by winch for the swinging the lines available for the permanent clean product with the drawing off of the case of the product with a tank with a stratified with it contains wet oil, emulsion, smudge, and lower levels. They are necessity of the tank is used for the selling of the dehydrating water, wet and contaminated stock. Sometimes confined air with the rules require the free end of the swing line to be raised with the oil level not actually in use. Normal operation of the free end of the swinging line with the console kept with a high elevation drawing on only the top layer of the product with the heavier parts of the product with a sealing accumulation with the tank bottom is free and the swinging line is constantly kept too low. The unacceptable quality product may be drawn off for the issue of the best operation for one result of the minimum accumulation of the bowl bottom settlings of the outer flow opening of the tank is not equipped with the swinging lines well usually with 10 to 18 inches above the tank of the bottom line may come out through the tank bottom but on the tank's larger construction opening will then through the shell. It's everything that the product with the help of the storage must be on specification level. The outlet with the withdrawn the product level the containment of the tanks of the issue with the maintain with the transfer product with them other of the tanks during the issue with when the outer pipe looks up and not surmounted with a suitable plate with the baffle deflected with the product with the withdrawn with a higher flow rate. A vortex may form with the column of the air being drawn outlet and in such a case with the tank with the pump the lower flow with the rate with the liquid level below 1 to 5 foot level. The military tanks have improved the design of the bottom of the tank of the shape of the inverted cone. The bottom slope to the center drain with the removal of the water greatly improved the tank with the design made easily to drain all the contents prior to the inspection cleaning. Gauging and thief hatches. On above ground storage tank, the hatches should be located with the gauge of the tank with the tank on the platform with the top of the tank level with the share with avoidable possibility of man's weight affecting the height of the reference bar of the when where possible the same man should be standing on the roof. For both operation clogging and closing and the gauge of the hatches should be located with the gauge type of the will not be foul with the obstruction inside of the tank. The hatches should be closely and immediately after you the gauge that for the hatch of normally the same opening on the some of the gasoline storage tank when the vapor pressure is maintained with the necessary U the sample bob, sampling bob. The hatch must have two pressure seal to permit the insertion and removal of the bob. The manufacturer instructions should be followed. Manholes normally tanks have one or more manholes on the roof, the side, above the ground tank. But the manholes are usually mainly with accessible ventilation prior to, during the cleaning of the repairing of the tank's manhole cover that will be kept tightly closed to prevent vapors from escaping the lost product. Wool heaters information of the various kinds of the heaters that may be obtained by the appropriate technical service simply with a grid type of the heater made over the manifold lengths of the pipe in a fit. Serpentine with an arrangement with just above the tank with the bottom with the type of the suitable, only raising the temperature over the oil with the tank as a whole. Most commonly used for the heat of the shell with the type of the is usually installed with the outside of the tank with the portable type of that has been designed with the lowered with the roof, the manhole with the direct fired heaters are occasionally installed with these requirements. Special care of their use must be operated accordingly with the manufacturer's instruction. Alright, pump manifolds and tank pens for the many of the underground tank for the equipped with an individual pump of the rotary pipe of the pump of the turbine driving located in the pits and chamber closes for the tank with the pump that provide with the necessary accessories such as bypass relief valve, check valve that may also be connected to so that the tank content will be circulated with the man's underground tank with a diesel fuel with a gasoline service is equipped with either submerged piping units and vertical well type pumps and what later pump with the drive of the motor with the pound with the shallow roof over the space with the above the tank and the roof of the suction line with the touch of the pump normally extended with the tank with the roof from to within 8 to 10 inches of the tank bottom and the end of the suction line with the pumping that is attached with usually placed with the horizontal baffle plate pad to prevent the pumping of the drawing of the bottom of the water with the type of the pump with the transfer of the burner fuel oil with the viscosity that's not too high with the similar with the smaller wet type of the central fill pump that is installed with the pumping out of the bottom of the water. Therefore, no individual tank pump, one or more central fill pumps of the group will serve the number of the tank. The operation of such for the group is similar principle to the operation from the booster pump house. When the pump is not under positive suction, the product with the tank at its low level require priming, and after flow is started with continuing with operating a low suction lift. Your gauges and table to gauge. The gauge tables give the actual volumetric measurement of the available for each for the tank. The table should show the capacity each for the inch of the tank height, usually with the interpole with the table for the each 1/8 of an inch. Volumetric capabilities. The gauge type table is shipped tanks as is rules to calculate with the drawings for a reason. Shippers' ullage pages should be considered only approximately correct. Section 3, pipelines, interterminals, and then we're going to cut the tape there.